Hello, I am Reverend Ryan, and welcome to Strip Down Sunday. We are Soul Evolution Collaborative, and so we're here to offer you a little bit of a different Sunday experience, and so hope you enjoy it. We, as always, are thrilled to have this time to be with you to offer some inspiration, some spiritual upliftment, throw around some new ideas, some new ways of maybe looking at ourselves and others in the world, and how we can all use these principles to actually activate some really powerful things in our life. And so we've stripped down your Sunday morning experience and kind of offer you kind of a streamlined experience that hopefully fits your needs in this moment. So we have a strong desire to bring this updated message, these spiritual principles out into the world in a time that I think we can all agree that we need it the most, and we can feel this kind of urge and call to really activate these things in our life. And so we here at Soul Evolution Collaborative are dedicated to personal transformation and communal evolution. So before we jump into our topic today, which is Boldly Go, we've been talking this month of creativity. So today's theme is Boldly Go within the concept of creativity. I'm going to talk about two really quick logistical things. One, everything that you would ever want to know about Soul Evolution Collaborative, what it is now, what it is evolving each and every day into this new experience. All that information you can find on our website, which is soulevolutioncollaborative.org. Let me put that in the chat so everyone can see that. And then, like I said, that link is in the chat. Feel free to open it up. Maybe open another tab, even if you're listening to me talk, and poke around and see all the stuff that we have going on. It is communities and missions like ours that are really yearning to bring change into the world. And so we're trying to actively create a new earth, a world that works for everyone. It's something that we talk about a lot here at SEC. And so if you are in any way able to partner with us financially, donations can be made at soulevolutioncollaborative.org and through the link that's in the chat, or you can do it through the website. And your gifts we're greatly appreciative of, and it serves to further support this ministry and the mission and the message that we have to offer. So we thank you for that. So today, boldly going. What does that mean? What does that mean in this idea of creativity? So for me, I always like to start with a definition. I think it's really important when we're talking about concepts, even these ideas and things that we have maybe heard before and learned before, and you're like, yeah, we know what that means. I always think it's always good to kind of start with a definition so that we're kind of all starting on a level playing field of what we're talking about. So today, boldly, what does it mean to be bold? And so by definition, bold is to come across in a confident and a courageous way. It shows a willingness to take risks. And it's a way that's characterized by having a strong, vivid, or clear appearance. So it's kind of a definition within a definition, but we can understand that bold is this willingness to take risk and this willingness to be strong and vivid and really clear about something. All right, so we're all on the same page, hopefully, about what bold means. And so when I started looking at this topic, this boldly going, and what does that mean in the context of creativity, all these different images started coming to my mind. This boldly going, this boldly doing something, writing a book or doing something where I'm famous in the world. All these sort of like really demonstrative sort of activities started kind of going through my mind when we talk about people maybe in our sphere of influence or even in society at large, where these are just bold individuals. These are like larger than life people, larger than life experiences. And so I began to think, okay, I understand that can be seen as being bold, but what if bold wasn't that? In the context of what we're talking about in creativity, in the context of what we're talking about in spirituality and just life in general, what does it mean to go boldly? Because it's not for all of us to start a movie. It's not for all of us to have this high-powered job. It's not for all of us to be whatever, whatever, whatever. But sometimes showing up boldly in our life can look like allowing, can look like releasing control over outcomes or attachments. Boldly can look like waiting, listening. What if going boldly actually meant sitting in a discomfort of not knowing? What if going boldly meant stepping out in something new, maybe something we haven't done before? Maybe it's going to a new place, or showing up in a way in a relationship, or engaging in new people. And what if sometimes, when we're doing this in life, and when we're moving and transforming and growing, sometimes it's uncomfortable. But what if going boldly is sitting in the discomfort? And what if the true definition of going boldly was living an authentic life? Whatever that looks like for you, whatever is in alignment with who you are, in alignment with your passions, in alignment with your gifts, with your strengths, in alignment with that kind of adventurous spirit within you. What if that was going boldly? I can think of no bolder way to live, especially in a day and age where we are called to know more, to do more, to be more, to make more, to get more. But what if going boldly, instead of like that seeking out, that getting, doing, being, knowing, all this sort of feeling, but what if going boldly meant making friends with our authentic self and living from that space? Honestly, as I was thinking about this idea of boldness and what that meant, I don't know that there's a bolder thing that we could actually do in this life than to explore our authentic self and to show up as that. I mean, I think that is the call. Isn't that the urge that we feel within us? When we're showing up in the world, or we're showing up in groups, or we're showing up at work, or showing up wherever. This just desire to be seen, this desire to be able to come to a place and show up just as we are. And we know those places. I think we all have those places in our life. I have those places in my life. And I begin to practice more and more showing authentically in all the places. But you know how that feels when you arrive and you're able to show up authentically. You're emboldened, you're empowered, you're energized, you're invigorated to live. And I think that's the urge within all of us. It's hard to put a name to it, but I think it's that feeling of wanting to show up authentically, fully expanding. And I think that's so simple when we talk about it. When I'm saying it now, it just seems, super simple. Just show up authentically. But man, is that a challenge. And so to kind of share a personal example of this from my own life, when I came out as non-binary, boy, was that scary. Boy, was that a challenge. And so, this was the truth of who I had always been, that kind of who I knew myself to be on the inside. And I didn't feel like I could show up authentically on the outside. And I think when we live life kind of pushing that authentic self down, our life becomes kind of smaller and smaller and smaller. And for me, that's how I felt, this kind of like shrinking, instead of this kind of boldness and vitality of life and living life as who I am. I felt this energy of hiding, or just kind of showing up like 2%. And it just was this very kind of not bold sort of energy. And so when I made the decision that was no longer serving me. And I think, isn't that true? What happens is like we hold on to these things, or we keep these things hidden, or we push down who we are, and we can only do it for so long. It feels like if we can't live who we are, we'll just explode. And I realized that I wanted to live expanded, not kind of smashed in a little box. And so when I began to live my experience authentically out in the world, to take what was inside and to live it outside, it was like, I don't know, like someone had breathed this life-giving air into me. Like things looked brighter, things smelled sharper, my body felt lighter. I began to feel like that the possibilities were limitless in my expression and who I was and how I showed up in the world and how I brought my authentic self, my gifts, my talents, who I am into the world. And it just opened this door. And that's not to say that it's been easy, because it's not, because often we meet and we talked about this earlier in the month, when we say yes to the yes, and we kind of meet this kind of resistance sometimes when we're kind of stepping out into our yes, stepping out into creating this life, this vital life, this authentic life. And sometimes we can meet resistance. We can sometimes, and I did that in my own situation. I met these circumstances where people didn't like that. People didn't like me showing up as my authentic self. People didn't agree with me showing up with all the things. And we're going to meet those things. And it can be hard. It can be challenging, especially when we're stepping out in ways that we've never stepped out before, or we're exploring new things. We are, stepping out in ways we had not done before or never thought possible. There'll be that resistance. But I think this energy of boldness is to meet the resistance, to sit in that discomfort like we've talked about so many times, and to then step despite it, to step from not this space of force, but the space of authenticity. And we know that authenticity sometimes meets resistance, and being able to not give up in the face of resistance, and to step out in ways that are authentic to who we are. And what's interesting about when we start doing this is then there's more and more opportunities for us to explore our authentic selves more and more, and to show up in more places. So when I began to explore this idea of showing up authentically in my non-binary self, then it began to encourage me to explore showing up authentically in so many different ways, to showing up authentically in relationships, to showing up authentically in relationships, to interactions with other folks, to showing up authentically in saying that, sometimes I don't have it all together, or sometimes I don't know all the answers, and that's okay. We're going to figure it out together. And so I began to be more and more comfortable in this energy of authenticity. And so that's what happens when we boldly go from the space of authenticity. It just opens up the world for more and more ways to show up this way. And so I think that's been the call this month, to tap into our own creativity, our own authenticity, whatever that looks like, to intentionally begin to explore ways that we can shift and move and evolve. And sometimes these shifts and these movements show up in these really quick ways, like me saying, showing up in my authentic self and coming out as non-binary. And sometimes they come in this like gentle dance, of exploration of authenticity. It's really fluid. And so this fluidity really creates a space for us to learn and for us to grow. And so in thinking about this, I came across this quote by Raymond Charles Barker, and I was like, yes, this is it. I love it when I come across things, ideas of other individuals, and they have just like tapped into it. I've been trying to find the words, and like the words were already there. And so Raymond Charles Barker said in The Science of Successful Living, he said, the full symphony of your real self can only be heard when all the windows of your mind are open to the fullness of life. And so that's the call of creativity, is to not always be stuck in what's comfortable, not always be stuck into what we've always done, but to be willing to be open to the fullness of life, open to new possibilities, open to new ways of seeing things, open to new ways of ideas. Especially in the spiritual life, in the spiritual community, we can get in our ruts, can't we? We can get really comfortable. We can get really like, this is us kind of box. But instead, maybe, stepping out authentically in this energy of authenticity in our spiritual life as well, of just being open and allowing the ideas and the experiences and the interactions with others to really kind of inform ourselves as we transform and as we evolve. And I think that, it's that voice that's deep within us that is imploring us to break free, move around, take a new path, stretch your legs a little bit. And it really invites the core of who we are to shine through, and really invites us to get really familiar with what that core is. I think for me, I think by the age I am now, I think, well, I should pretty much know myself. But it's really interesting as I'm really getting really focused on really living authentically and what that looks like. I'm exploring things within myself I just really never realized. I'm exploring ways I've shown up or ways I've reacted, and like, well, what's that about? And as I explore, it really kind of brings me back to past experiences or underlying beliefs or things like that. And I'm like, I've been operating from that space for a while. I wonder what it would look like if I operated from this belief or this space or this way of seeing the world. And so it just creates this freedom to move and explore and then show up authentically as ourselves each and every day. And so, our journey this month has been in this whole idea of creativity. And I think when we think about creativity, sometimes maybe we think of drawing or painting or all those sort of things, and we think, oh, we're not creative. But if we look at it in creativity, in this idea of showing up, this idea of discovering our authentic selves and then showing up as that, then man, aren't we all creative? We've been on this journey of saying yes to the yes this month. We've been on this journey of when we say yes, sometimes we meet resistance. And that's okay, and being comfortable with that. We have talked about breaking the glass, breaking that glass ceiling, breaking that mold or those barriers or those walls that we have built in our comfort zones, and really being bold and willing to step beyond those experiences. And so, this boldness, this living life creatively, this living life authentically, that is kind of like our superpower in any given moment that we can begin to explore. We can begin to create in ways that we never thought possible. And to be really, I don't know, sometimes I get really caught up in this whole destination or final outcome sort of scenario of like, if I can get all this stuff worked out, then I'll be spiritual. If I get all this stuff worked out, then I'll be put together, or whatever, fill in your own blank. But what if this idea of creativity is just like, a paintbrush stroke here and a highlight here and a tension here, and in doing those little things, those little awarenesses, those little movements, those little shifts, those little focuses, we begin to create this masterpiece of life. That it's not this final portrait, but instead it's this thing that we go back to, and we add a little shading here, or we add a little light here, we add a little bit more color here. And so that becomes this just evolving experience of really taking what is on the inside, our authentic selves, and really showing it to the world in this masterpiece of life. And so Rumi says that a new moon teaches gradualness and deliberation, and how one gives birth to oneself slowly. Patient with small details makes perfect a large work, like the universe. And so we may find that going boldly is not this specific destination or this big thing, but instead it's coming home to ourselves. And then living from that space, living from that authentic self. And then that becomes the masterpiece of our creativity.